Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for your always great support. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there is just a news that is coming in. As you know very well, I told you here, action points of Gen Zs they have just released. And amongst these action points of Gen Zs, and the next step, they are going to follow up this Kenya Kwanza government. They said that Sunday, date 30th June, they're going to deplatform politicians in churches. Don't allow any politician or Ruto to speak in your church. We shall observe a moment of silence for 5 minutes for our murdered comrades. After this was just released, guess what news that is just coming in? We are being told that Lavington Church cancels First Lady Rachel Ruto's fundraising event after online uproar in terms of the Gen Z's next move. Now, this is not something that is starting now. Remember, when the Gen Z's prepared themselves for the last Tuesday's demonstration, what they started with was to deplatform these politicians from our churches. I think you do remember when William Ruto had a church service at Nyahururu, you saw politicians were not allowed to speak. It was only William Ruto as a president and Rigathi Gachagua. And so this was just a fear from the clergy that there was a warning that the Gen Zs had already communicated to them. The same thing is happening as it was expected that Madam Rachel Ruto was to have a fundraising event at Lavington Church. And so because of the online, now the circulating news online that is giving the team of Madam Rachel Ruto fear, they have now cancelled. Not that the Madam Rachel Ruto has cancelled, but it is the church that has cancelled after receiving these messages. I think for several decades, we have used the church to actually popularize our political agendas. And sometimes back, you can realize that William Ruto himself used the church platform to popularize his presidency, and this was not good at all because church is expected to be independent, not to support any agenda of the government of the day. They must be independent. But last general election was so petty, and the church never took their role as we expected. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when the Lavington Church cancels First Lady Rachel Ruto's fundraiser event after online uproar, remember one thing. I rewinded the video that Madam Rachel Ruto said that because of we as Kenyans, we are using fertilizer, it is because we have not received revival. But Uganda is not using fertilizer because they have received East African revival. So the video also circulated in social media as bigger percentage of people never received the message of Madam Rachel Ruto in a good way.
One day in 2022 when Uganda was celebrating 60 years, we flew to Uganda. And when I landed in Uganda, Apostle Subi and Apostle Suna, Uganda was very green, yet Kenya was so dry. I remember making a prayer and telling God, why can't Kenya be green like Uganda? And see what God has done. When we pray, God answers. But the other day I got an answer why Uganda is, in Kenya we have to plant with fertilizer. But Apostle Subi told me that Ugandans don't plant with fertilizer. This fertilizer that you hear our president saying, we have to give the fertilizer to the farmers. In Uganda, there is no fertilizer. True? And Apostle Subi told me that he was so shocked when he came to Kenya and he found that Kenyans were planting their crops with fertilizer. But I got an answer the other day. The reason why Uganda is very fertile and it has been raining is because of the East Africa revival that swept Uganda and some parts of East Africa. Now
So starting today, these politicians must understand that the church is not going to be a platform where politics is going to be played. That is number one. Number two, we have realized that they want to distract the pulpits with a lot of shenanigans, which it is politically, but in our pulpits across the Republic of Kenya must be independent. I don't expect a politician to come out to show how he understands politics very well. These politicians must organize their own meetings. And again, those who voted yes for this finance bill that was withdrawn, remember one thing, they don't have opportunity to organize any meeting in this country. Why? They played with the minds of Kenyans. They served William Ruto's interest and not our interest. And that is why we are not going to cool down. It is now the time that we must, we must rather liberate our country. It is now the time for revolution, and these leaders must be accountable. That is what we want. At the same time, the Lavington church cancels the fundraising event. Remember one thing. There was also a prayer. It is not even a prayer. It is a must. As Gen Zs are saying, that the First Lady's office must not be there. Why should it be there, receiving millions of money? The same to the Second Lady, Pastor Dorcas Rigathi. Why should she receive money? The same to the wife to the Prime Cabinet, Tesi Mudavadi. Why should she have the money allocated to her office? What is this that these people are doing? We never elected these three individuals. And that is our request. They must stay at home. It is not their business. William Ruto was the one who was sworn in the office. It was not Madam Rachel Ruto. So the time must be there that we must realize that our money is being used carelessly. 1.2 billion Kenya shillings is just being allocated just to two officers, Madam Rachel Ruto and Madam Dorcas Rigathi. This is the request that Kenya and the Gen Zs are coming up with. As if that is not enough, Kenyans, these young youths, they have dispatched themselves across the Republic of Kenya. That they are not going to give these politicians any space. They are not going to give these politicians any space. It is now time. It is now time that they must realize that let the church be a church. Na hata hao watu wasipewe viketi hapo mbele, wakae katikati ya Wakristo, penye Wakristo wanakaa. That is what the Gen Zs are saying. It is not a must that every now and then hao watu wanakaa mbele. Kwani hao ni kina nani? Yes, the president must be given that respect. But my MPs, my MCs, wakae huko katikati na watu. Hao pia ni watu. Why is it that when you were looking forward to be elected, ulikuwa unakaa katikati huko? Hata wakati mlikuwa mnaekea viketi huko mbele, you never wanted to use those seats. And now because you have been elected, you're earning a lot of salary. Let me say a lot of money. On this side, mnataka mubebwe kwa mabega, hata mkikuja kwa makanisa mnataka mkue mbele. Mukae huko nyuma because you've forgotten what you are elected for. And this is the time you must know that we were just watching you and we are not going to spare them. So the movement that is there is to ensure that the politician must stay on their lane. They must deliver. They must not involve themselves in this a lot of trips. Mtu wako South Africa anatakana kuwe National Assembly. Mtu vile Sudi alisema sijui yeye aendane National Assembly, yeye anaendana kutafuta hela Uganda ama Tanzania. These people must be given a role. If you want to be a leader, be a leader. If you want to be a businessman, go and be a businessman. or woman. That is what the Gen Zs are coming out to request. So, the 30th, the Gen Zs, they have declared no politician should take the pulpits across the Republic of Kenya. And this is the warning. Ladies and gentlemen, what do you think? Drop your opinion at the comment section below. Otherwise, thank you so much because of your great support. Please consider subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing this video. Bye-bye till you meet in another video.